Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. Good morning. It is a beautiful Friday morning, June the 12th, and this broadcast is about to be on fire. So if you haven't been watching, you haven't been paying attention, trust me, we're about to bring you up to speed. But before we jump in, let's see where my trusty co-host is. We'll see where David is. You know, David is like CP time. David.
Hey, I'm right
Hey.
here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Good
David.
morning, Tamara.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there like a loose tooth.
Ooh, just dangling, huh, David?
Mm.
Well, we got Ken in the lobby, our every second Friday guest, Mr. Ken Williams. I'm gonna have to get Ken. You're gonna have to tell us officially that title again. I always butcher it, but I'm gonna get it right.
Certainly. Thank you for having me today. And my business is Cable Services. You can reach me at cableservices.com. I'm a use of force expert witness in police practices, use of force, and oftentimes investigating wrongful deaths. Municipalities and attorneys will contract with me to review those type of cases.
Yes, you always bring the noise. What's going on in the world of policing and all that good stuff? Bring us up to speed.
Certainly. I think today what we should do is maybe talk about the First Amendment, which is rather important because it talks about our freedom to speak. And sometimes there are exceptions to the law where when we think about the present day conditions, we have Trump as a president, and we have him speaking things that a lot of folks think are inflammatory, that certainly don't unite the nation, actually are divisive words. We have to be very careful in that sense about who we elect as politicians, people who represent every person in this nation. And some of the things that are current events in the news are certainly Joe Biden, who has been in politics for many, many years. And some of the things that I found that were rather alarming to me, thinking about Joe Biden, who wants to get back into public service, is that a lot of folks don't realize that Joe Biden says that he was actually someone that modeled his career after LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson, as we know, was a person who, after President Kennedy was assassinated, became president of the United States, I believe the 36th president at that time. And Lyndon B. Johnson was also responsible for nominating Thurgood Marshall to the Supreme Court. But what a lot of folks aren't aware of in that history is that Lyndon B. Johnson was a racist. And when he appointed Thurgood Marshall, quote, he said, "When I appoint a nigger to the bench, I want everybody to know he's a nigger." That was one passage in Lyndon B. Johnson's past. Another involved a black man who was a chauffeur of Lyndon B. Johnson, who on one occasion in a memoir that he wrote, he said, Lyndon B. Johnson turned to him and asked him whether or not he preferred to be named or called a boy, nigger, or chief. And when the driver turned to him and said, "Look, I prefer my name," Johnson, in a very angry tone, said, "As long as you're black, and you're going to be black till the day you die, no one's going to call you by your goddamn name. So no matter what, you're called a nigger. You just let it roll off your back like water, and you'll make it. Just pretend you're the goddamn piece of furniture." So we have to be concerned with who exactly is Joe Biden. If Joe Biden modeled his career after LBJ, wanted to enter politics based on LBJ, who exactly is Joe Biden? And why do so many black people seem to be giving Joe Biden a pass based on his views in the past, his palling around with segregationists? That's the topic that I wanted to raise today. The First Amendment, public servants, and why exactly are black folks so willing to give LBJ or Joe Biden a pass?
I'm not. I'm not. What about you, David? I know you're not black, but
Well, I'm I have some mixed feelings about, about anecdotes as evidence. That's that. Yeah, I mean, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about the broader picture of LBJ as the guy who shepherded through, because of his mastery of the Senate, the Civil Rights Acts, because I see the Civil Rights Acts as being very much giving something away and taking something back. But the anecdotes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like maybe he was in the example of the chauffeur, saying pretty much what Branch Rickey said to Jackie Robinson. So I could see different ways of interpreting it. But on the larger question, I think there is a really big issue, because what happened with the Civil Rights Act and the compromise that he made with the Dixiecrat senators to get the Civil Rights Act passed fits into a much larger context, which is that Black people were being driven by a cotton farming mechanization, were being driven out of their jobs. As bad as they were.
Let me interject 1 second, David. I'm going by the standard that if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. If you are a person that is saying disparaging things from your brain, from your heart, and you're saying it to one Black person or 100,000 or 1 million Black people, you're a racist. LBJ and those words are in and of themselves evidence of what is coming through his heart and brain, through his mouth, through his language, directed at a particular class group of people based on the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the current establishment and the past establishment that are equal is that under this Trump world, white people aren't negatively impacted by his policies the same as Black people. So we can talk about LBJ being brought to the table after the assassination of Kennedy and fulfilling, signing the Civil Rights Act, but that didn't change what was in his heart, because soon after he signed that act, we then roared into what was called the war on drugs, and that was set up by LBJ as well. So we have to be very careful in what we parse out and what we're trying to eliminate as evidence-based animus towards disparity, racial, disparity. We can't discredit or somehow say, well, dismiss what LBJ's intentions were. They're very clear.
Well, Ken, I don't want to have an argument with you. What I'm saying essentially agrees with what you're saying. I'm just looking at the larger structural and policy issues and pointing out that he made a deal with the Southern Dixiecrat senators. And that's how the Civil Rights Act got passed. And I'm asking, or I'm suggesting, that there was something in that deal that worked for them, that worked for the preservation of white supremacy in the country, and particularly in the Jim Crow South. And one of those things was that the Civil Rights Act arose in the middle 50s, just at a time when the federal government was providing large funds, mostly for white farmers, to mechanize agriculture, which drove Black people out of the cotton production industry. It left them high and dry, and forced them out off of the agriculture and into first the southern cities and then the northern cities. And LBJ's the structure of the Great Society and the Civil Rights Act created the conditions for pushing Black people out of the South and into urban areas, and at the same time also created the circumstances for bankrupting, hundreds of thousands of black farmers who couldn't qualify for those loans because of the banks were in the hands of white supremacists. So I'm not saying all that I'm saying here is that looking at anecdotal issues when there is this massive, much larger issue is of the historical process that took place is it seems to me it's not something that helps our understanding of the larger picture. That's all.
Well, let me respond this way then.
And I'm not sure about this mass incarceration. I don't know, if you have more information about that, I'd be very interested to hear it. But it really, required large numbers of black folks concentrating in the inner cities and white flight in order for there to be the circumstances for the targeted policing that took place to create mass incarceration. There's somebody who's written on this, and he calls it targeted mass incarceration. It's not mass without a focus.
Well, let me respond this way. Let me respond this way, because and here goes the problem with taking snapshots in history instead of looking at the overall spectrum of what took place as a policy pattern in practice. Enslavement was mass incarceration. Prisoner of war camps were set up in America. That was mass incarceration. Then we had a civil war which broke up the mass incarceration, the prisoner of war camps, and we set the black people free. Then we had Reconstruction after that Civil War for 10 years, a decade, that failed because the federal government made a deal that it said to those black Southerners that were freed, hey, you know what? We're going to turn over 400,000 acres of land to you guys because we understand the land grants that we gave the white people, the white immigrants that came to this country was, creating an economic situation that prevented black people from being able to be on par, equal level, equal playing field with those whites. So all of a sudden, a year or so into Reconstruction, or before Reconstruction, a year or so into it, the field order was rescinded, even though the government was well aware that Sherman didn't go down there under his own free power to go and try to tell people to go and settle on 400,000 acres of land. It was by an act that the government was fully aware of and sanctioned, not sanctioned, but told Sherman to go do. After that debacle, we still had land grants that were handed out across this country to white folks that weren't given to black people. That again created inequality. But at the same time, we had the freed people that were now subjected to having to work under the same tyranny of the people who subjected them to the several hundred years of enslavement, the prisoner of war camps. And now when we move forward in that timeline and we think about Jim Crow, debt peonages, and all the other things that were created legislatively to go and create inequality, and we get to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, we can't be dismissive of the wash, rinse, and repeat cycle of it now being mass incarceration, where 1 in 5 black men have been incarcerated in the same system, the same exact system that was a for-profit system at the very beginning of the cycle. We can't ignore that timeline, and we can't ignore that history. So for us to go and try to go and parse it out where we stop midstream in history, start back up, and then not look at the complete entire timeline is absurd. And that's the reason why I'm saying, David, we cannot, if we're going to at least move forward as a group of people, we can't have people like Joe Biden that's not willing to come forward and say, you know what, back in the day, I was a full-blown freaking racist. And my beliefs back then don't align with my beliefs today. But let me tell you the story about who I was and who I am. And for black people to not look at Joe Biden and say, you know what, Joe, just tell us the truth. We're not even willing to say that. We're willing to say, you know what, let's just get over that part and not have any kind of discussion about it, to me is equally absurd.
Okay. I mean,
So
I'm
we're at the quarter of the hour.
Oh,
King
that goes
Williams.
fast, doesn't it?
I know it sure does. David, do you want to have the last? Let's let David
I
have
just I don't
make
I
a
don't
comment.
agree with anything that you're saying, Ken. I mean, I think what I said, fits perfectly in line with what you're saying. But that's we got.
Let me just sum it up this way. As public servants, and I was a public servant as a police officer, person that went out and carried out the duties to protect and serve every person in this nation equally. I found it very, very, very offensive that a president of the United States could be exonerated for their racist beliefs, their racist practices, their racist policies. And now that every black person has come full circle to know that every white person understands this as well, we should make sure that we, going forward, do not have a racist in the White House. Period.
And on that note, Mr. Ken Williams, every second Friday right here on Tamara For Georgia. Mr. Williams, we look forward to having you back.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. David.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
I
Adjust your camera. You look like you're sitting on the floor, David. I need you to rise up here.
Well, I wonder, when I'm saying something that I think is perfectly congruent with what Ken is saying, it gets misinterpreted. So, or as if I'm challenging him. Anyway, never mind. It is what it is. And
adjust your camera, David. I don't know if you're shrunk over this conversation. I don't know what happened, David. I love you.
Is that better?
That's much better. All right, we have a guest because David, see over here in this, let's bring it home and bring it local. We have a guest in the lobby, Miss Trish Walker. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
Yeah, so let's bring everybody up to speed for those of you that don't know what's going on in the 6th congressional district, which Trish that is her district. She's a constituent over there. I'm actually in the 7th, the neighboring district, but the Senate district, when I ran for the state Senate, encompassed 6 and 7. So I'm very familiar with Trish's stomping grounds. But our Trish's House representative is Miss Lucy McBath. And Lucy McBath has not signed on to HR 40. And for those of you that don't know what HR 40 is, we've been talking about reparations on this broadcast for quite a while. Let's bring in another guest, Mr. Sean Hill. Sean, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I surely can. We surely can. Welcome to the broadcast. We got Miss Trish. We got Mr. David Slavin, my trusty co-host. Reparations, HR 40. Lucy McBath has not signed on. Trish, how you feel about that?
I'm angry.
Angry? That's a nice word.
And period, I am angry of all the audacity. Like, for me to be the congresswoman whose son died at the hands of a race soldier, a white.
Speak louder. Speak a little louder. Okay,
let me turn this up. Is that better?
Yeah, just talk louder. You got a soft voice.
So to be the congresswoman that the son died at the hands of a race soldier, like her son was sitting in the back of a car and a white man in a gas station, and they said the music was loud. And so the white man decided that he was going to kill the black children in that car because their music was too loud. And he thought he was perfectly okay. Like, the man thought that it was okay. That's how much white supremacists, that's how much they value the lives of black children. So her son died at the hands of a race soldier, and she can't support HR 40, but she can support HR 6 for.
Tell us what HR 6 is for those that don't know.
HR 6 is for illegal aliens. Is that the one to get the I know they threw like $40 billion at them, or 40 million, but whatever it was to help illegal aliens in this country. And I was like, they don't even have the right to vote. 1. So they're not citizens. 2, they're not your constituents. 3, why? And then there's HR 1044 where it gives Indians the right to come over here and take jobs away from PhDs or people who have degrees. Like we have, they're trying to take away everything that was meant for us and give it to immigrants. And we've been here the longest. Like it just galls me. And like I said, for her, like this is an easy sell for her. I talked to her director of whatever you want to, I don't know, I called him assistant, whatever, because she wasn't available. So I talked to her assistant, and in talking to him, it just seems like I was like, oh, at the end I said, oh, she's scared. Why? Like we can help her sell this. This is not a hard sell. We got you. She doesn't want to win. That's what I said. I said, oh, she doesn't want to win.
Sean, you want to jump in? You want to jump in? Introduce yourself, Sean. So Sean is ADOS out in Texas, right, Sean? Am I hitting it right?
You hit it right, Dallas, Texas. Hello, Trish. Hello, David. And thank you, Tamara, for allowing me to be on. I just want to just co-sign on what Trish said. You know me. I've been following the CBC, the Congressional Black Cowers, for a long time. Lucy is just one of that circus. And so it's not surprising that she would be doing this. It's not surprising. These cowards, you have to drag them to the table. For HR 6, it was no problem. They signed on 100% across the board. Couldn't keep them away. But for HR 40, for reparations, my team, the ADOS team, we have been on them. And I mean on them consistently since January of this year. And these people, you have to drag kicking and screaming to the table to even try to do something right for the Black community. And you, as Trish said, you would think this would be a no-brainer. This isn't even reparations. This is the study to study reparations. So it's like, okay, I don't know. And that was my whole point with everybody else, is they're saying, oh, well, HR 40 is flawed and this, that, and the other. But the thing about it is, if you can't get people to sign on to a study, how do you think they're going to advocate when it comes to push this up, shove? So to me, this is a litmus test, and she's failed the test. That's all I can say.
And she doesn't talk about race. So as a candidate myself, and being around that district a lot, when I saw Lucy, I've never heard Lucy talk about race. She doesn't have the race conversation. So I am not surprised that she has not stepped up to HR 40 with reparations. She doesn't even talk about the root of it. Like, let's at least have that conversation candidly. And I don't hear her even having those conversations. Have you, Trish?
No, not at all. Like we went to one of her town halls. There was not.
Put your mic back up.
Sorry. We went to one of her town halls, and she spoke nothing of race. Like we were trying to get her attention so that we could ask her a question about reparations. Her director said that she did have a question about reparations at another town hall, and her response was some bullshit. Anyways, it was something like, we have to be careful about what? Put your signature, co-sponsored. Can we keep it pushing? Like, I feel like she and John Lewis could be like making history. I don't understand.
She is afraid because her district is predominantly white. And I think because she's not comfortable with having these, like I say, race conversations, that she doesn't know how to even address reparations. Like, I believe she's very afraid. And you cannot be afraid and be in the Congress. I'm sorry. We got enough scared Negroes there already.
Right. So I gave her, or her assistant, whatever, I gave him the studies. I printed everything out. I gave him a list of 3-page list of reparations that have been handed out for people from the United States government and all over the world, just cash payments. Cause he was like, it shouldn't just be it can't just be cash, because that's just putting a Band-Aid on cancer. I was like, oh, but it can be. That's not all we want, but it can be, because here's this list. And let me show you, all these people got was cash, some land, but cash. And then I, told him to go to ADOS101.com because there's a list of 10 things. I told him we want $80,000 down and $3,000 a month. And he was like, oh, you got a plan. Yes, sir. Yes. Like, we take payments. Like, we know it's a big amount. We know you can just print it. Give us our money. Like, literally, I was like, dude, I am 55 years old. I am living in an Airbnb because I lost my business. I had to file for bankruptcy. I lost my apartment. I lost the respect of my family because I'm the tree. I'm the rock, and the rock is crumbling. And I was like, I don't see any way out of this. Like, I used to be able to fail, get back up, pull myself up, fail, try it again. I can't.
And reparations is needed. We are a broken, I had this conversation, Trish, too. Like, we are a broken people. We are still struggling. Like, we're still in a place where our people are struggling. So there has to be some redress. Am I jumping there, Sean? Like, I can't be, we're right on time with this.
Well, we have to really realize that right now, reparations is the only salvation for the Black community overall. You will have people trickle up because we have a normal, what's called a distribution curve of results. So in any group, in anything, you're going to have people that will be successful individuals. You're going to have that bulk that's going to be in the middle, and then you're going to have people that's going to fill out no matter what you do. And so many times people look at that last segment, well, they're just going to throw the money away anyway. They're going to do that anyway. What we have to look at as our community is we can't keep with these universal raceless policies for a racist problem. So it was a racist policy that created this. When we look at the FHA, we look at all those, we look at segregation. Those are racist policies. So you can't use universal raceless solutions to solve that. And that's universal basic income. That's all these things that are thrown at Black people to kind of get them off their point. Oh, well, let's try to get rid of college debt. Maybe they'll like that. No, let's go over here to the universal basic income. Maybe they'll like that. No, and so they keep throwing things against the wall to see what will stick. When we know that for a community, the only thing that's going to be sticking is reparations. And that's where we have to go to our CBC members, because at least as of right now, they are representatives. And now we have to say, you know what, Black people have been paying into the Democratic Party for at least 50 years at a rate of 88%. And so now that check has come due. Now the bill is past due. We're not going to kick this can down the road another season. We're not going to take we got to get Trump out of office. That's not going to work anymore. All these things that they've tried to do, all these things that have worked in the past, they kind of reached in that trick bag and say, oh, well, you know what, let's dial this one up. That's worked in the past. Oh, let's dial that one up. That's worked in the past. Ooh, we got Joe Biden. He's got the Obama juice. Let's dial that one up. Ooh, there's Kamala Harris. She's a Black woman. Let's dial. See, we're at a different level now. We're at a different level. So all that stuff that used to work, yeah, you can keep that now. They ain't working.
Thank you, Sean. You preaching, brother, because that's exactly how they have dug in that trick bag long enough. We are not going to just give you this vote. You're not going to get this for free no more. You're not. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You will not get this vote for free. I will sit home. I will not vote for Lucy McBath. She's not my congressperson, but I look, Trish, we're not voting for Lucy if Lucy don't get this right.
No, and Lucy, literally last year when it was time to vote, because I have a friend who's a part of her Guns for Mom's Guns. I don't know.
Moms Demand Action or something like that.
Something like that. And he's been, picketing with them and carrying signs and holding water, whatever they want, money, whatever. So he's part of that group, and that's how he knows her. And he told me, at the time I was in Illinois, I drove from Rockford, Illinois to Atlanta to vote for her in November in the cold and the rain, down the stupid Tennessee mountain that's scary as all get out, on ice between trucks, to vote for her to sit her ass in Congress and not co-sponsor a bill that will help her people. She was very bold. I've read articles and I followed that murder with her son because I used to live in Orlando, Florida. So I followed that. And she was very bold back then. So that's who I was expecting as my congressperson. That's not who I'm getting. I don't care if she's scared. And I told her director, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if she's scared. She's going to be a one-term congresswoman. Mark my words.
And bold becomes bought and sold. Let me say that again, Trish. Bold becomes bought and sold. And that's what has happened.
Exactly. It's just ridiculous. I feel like I was like she's not honoring her son at all. Not at all. This is dishonorable, and she should be ashamed of herself.
Yes.
I'm embarrassed. I am.
So we got her number on the screen. We're gonna like call that office today, everybody. We're gonna be on Twitter. Rep Lucy McBath. Let's give it to her because she has to be held accountable. See, Democrats, I'm quote unquote, I'm a Democrat, but Democrats don't like to be held accountable. They want us to go after the Republicans for everything they do wrong. But when Democrats not right, you're supposed to sit back and be quiet. I don't play that game, and that's probably why I've had such a hard time politically, because I'm going to call out Democrats just like I call out Republicans. And this Democrat, Lucy McBath, you are not right. HR 40 needs to have your name on it. There's absolutely no reason, no excuse. If you're too scared to have that conversation in your district, you don't need to be in that district.
For true. She's got 400,000 ADOS in her district. 400,000. She's got 80,000 Hispanic and 400,000 white people. She needs our vote. Hispanic people, she is not. Oh, I was like, if I have to go door to door and tell these people what this woman has not done, that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do. So she'll be on her own. She'll be back at United Airlines. Delta, I don't know. So, wait, can y'all hear her?
Tamara, we can't hear you. I can't hear you.
No, I don't hear you.
Can y'all hear me? So yeah, we're calling her office, Representative Lucy McBath. We're gonna flood those phone lines. We're gonna blast her all over Twitter, Facebook, all over social media. We are going to hold these elected officials accountable. We voted you in, damn it, we will vote you out. And they're like, oh, she's a black woman. You coming for another black woman? I don't care about race.
Yes, we are.
That's not about race. It's about what's best for black people as a whole. So if black people are hurting black people, we coming for you too.
Can I say something?
Oh gosh, yes, jump in.
No, just real quick. Just want to shout out everybody on Facebook that's joining us. Make sure you share this show. This is the information that needs to be getting out everywhere. Get off Cardi B or whatever somebody else is doing. This is what impacts your life. So please share the show. And I want to shout out Mike Larry because he says something as I'm looking on Facebook because I'm following there too. He says, I'm in John Lewis District. The best we can do here is groom someone to replace him when he dies. And what I want to, and I'm not faulting him for that because that's a lot of people's attitude. And what I want to share with everybody is that's not what we want. We got to put heat on these people. I don't care if you get back in office. This is the time. You might get back in office, but it's going to be painful. You're going to feel some pain. So no. We can't just take a defeatist attitude. We have to be aggressive. We have to be bold. We have to be engaged. We have to be involved. We just can't look at these things and continue to say, oh, well, we just gonna. No. That day is gone. That old, pandering. Oh, we just gonna wait. No. That shucking jiving day is gone. This is new black media. This is a new generation. B1, foundational blacks, ADOS. All we coming together. We coming at you. You may stay in office, but you won't be comfortable in office. And I don't care if we're not in your district. We still coming for you. We still coming for you.
I love it. David, what you gonna do with all this black power around you?
That the role of somebody like me, European American, is to figure out ways to make this argument to other European Americans, and to point out to them that reparations is actually in their interests. For most European American working people, the struggle for equality for African Americans, for access to the same, for reparations. In other words, for repairing the generational damage, the multi-generational damage that's been done and that is still ongoing, is really critically important for European American working people to be able to claim their own power to resist exploitation by the ruling class and capital in this country. And there are many, many ways that you could see how that operates, how that would operate if we were together, if we were acting in solidarity. So, there's and somebody needs to talk to Lucy McBath about that. If she's the thing is that I call this thinking and acting white. And I think that there's a projection for many African American political leaders that says, "Oh my God, white people can't change. They can't be talked to, in the same way as we talk to Black people. So therefore, we have to pull in our horns. We have to be we have to be circumspect. We have to be careful, and it doesn't fly. It's never worked. It's still not going to work. It's the reason that Joe Biden is the front runner. Besides name recognition, is that there are people who are who fall into the trap of that logic, and to some extent, I'm worried that Karen Handel will be able to defeat Lucy McBath, and that would be a terrible thing. But because
well,
Karen,
you know what, David, when it comes to Karen Handel, look, Trish, we might have to go knock on that door, because if she's willing to listen and she's willing to get on board and she's willing to change.
I certainly think that the question should be put to Karen Handel as well as to Lucy McBath. Mm-hmm. I think that's quite appropriate and politically effective thing to do. So I'm with you on that. But Karen Handel is poison. I mean, she really is, from what I can tell.
Well, we're playing politics at this point. So if we have to align ourselves with one side over the other, and then we got to get what we can get. We playing politics. So
when the question comes up, I think the appropriate question for Lucy McBath is not, are you going to support, but how are you going to present this to the predominantly white district that you're in a way that will bring people around and that will make you much more effective, as an honest representative of the interests of people in your district.
Of all people in her district, she has to be a bridge builder.
Yeah, and that would actually, I think, produce a far a better outcome for her than this idea of keeping your head down, which is essentially what this administrative assistant said to you, Trish. I mean, that's the sense that I got, right? He was saying, well, we got to keep our head down about this. And you're absolutely right, both you and Sean, that we're not talking about paying it out. We're talking about just studying the issue. I mean, come on, that if you are that timid, I agree with Tamara. You don't belong in Congress, where you gotta kick some ass, So what are the things that we could say to European Americans that would be effective and if not convince them, at least get their respect, for what the reparations is about. And for that, I think, I just read something about, I'm not endorsing Elizabeth Warren here, but Elizabeth Warren is making the same speech about race and racial inequality to white folks in Iowa as she is to black folks in South Carolina. And my hat's off to her for that. I just read an article in the Nation, about her. If she does that, if she's the quote white candidate who's gonna do that, then I think that she's ahead of Bernie on that. So we need these European Americans, whether they become the presidential nominee or not. We need to get them into the habit of telling white people, the truth, of what's been happening and how the racial inequality has created this privilege structure, which I don't believe benefits them. It creates a differential between blacks and whites. But the what it really does is it provides a way for them to shoot themselves in their own foot.
Yeah. So we're almost at the three quarters of the hour, but I want Sean and Trish. Sean, go ahead. Just give us some takeaways. Like, we got Lucy McBath's number here on the screen, 202-225-4501, her Twitter handle. Hit her up. Let her know that this is unacceptable. What do you think, Sean?
Absolutely. I think the takeaway is just like just jump back in. You see how I encouraged Mike? He said, you know what? I was going to kind of sit on the sideline. He jumped back in. He called office, and he got that generic answer just like Trish would get, just like David would get, just like you're going to get. Oh, well, we'll pass this along. We'll let them know, And that's fine if that's what you want to do. If you want to continue to take this heat, we got all day. We're not going anywhere. So you can think you're going to try to push it out. And that's what you want to do. That's the game you want to play. We can play that all day, and we have much more people to play it with. So we're good with that. And I think my takeaway is for especially black people, and I appreciate David what he's saying. He's going to advocate for that community, but especially for black people. We cannot continue to allow these people to shuck and jive us, to think, well, you know what? I have to be over in this district. I have to talk to these. We're talking about HR 40. The majority of America doesn't even know what it is. For her to co-sponsor that, it's not like this is this well-known, publicized, really contentious. And oh my God, if I even touch this, it's radioactive. Oh, I don't know how. If she signed it, nobody would know. Most people, white people don't care. They don't know. So these excuses, this feedback that Trish is giving us about, oh my God, I don't know how we explain it. They don't care. It's a study. People understand how far away that is from reparations. So we have to stop allowing these pat answers. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep this pressure on. I'm going to say this one last thing, and I'll give it to Trish, and you can kind of wrap it up, is that just this morning, the labor secretary resigned. Trump's labor secretary was something that he did in 2008, but they put that pressure on his butt, and guess what? He got up out that office. The same thing here. You have to keep putting pressure on people, and once you keep, what they say, pressure busts pipes, and you put enough pressure on people, they will get out of office, or they will be very uncomfortable while they're in office. So we're not going anywhere. That's all I got to say.
Sean, you got to come back to the broadcast with that fire. I love it. Trish, that's your representative. We're going to work hand in hand with you and all the others that are ADOS Atlanta, ADOS Georgia. We're going to start pushing these congressional people to get on board with what is best for Black people. And it's no excuse. Trish?
I'm just glad we're doing this, because after I left his office or her office, I was so discouraged. Fired up, angry, but kind of discouraged, because I was like, well, how am I going to get this push to get her? Like, she needs to be pushed. So I just need everybody to call, tweet. I'm going back to the office. Like I told him, I said, if I don't hear from you, I'm just going to show up, and we're going to have this discussion over and over and over. And I'm just going to keep showing up. Like, I'm going to be a thorn in their side. So more thorns works for me.
That's right. We got work to do. So I want to thank you both for joining us on this episode, this broadcast. You are both we're all ADOS family. Welcome to the broadcast, you're welcome back anytime. So we will continue to push. Watch for all the stuff on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram. We're pushing everywhere. She's going to sign before it's over.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, guys.
Tamara.
Power to the people. I love that. Pressure pipes.
Pressure bust pipes.
That's great.
Well, we got Robbie in the house. Let's see where Robbie is. Let's see. Robbie.
Hey, y'all. Been watching.
I know it's been on fire this morning with these ADOS. We're not playing.
I can see that. I don't know what the strategy is, though.
Well, right now we're going to push Lucy just to at least co-sponsor HR 40. It's a study.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking to do is study the issue.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, I don't agree with Sean. Realistically, this is the kind of thing that Karen Handel will play up to the to the max, and she'll twist and distort and do everything. I don't think this is the kind of thing that'll fly under the radar at all. So
I'm lost based on the numbers I heard.
What numbers?
This young lady
Trish?
said that the district was 400,000 for ADOS, 80,000 Hispanic, and 400 Caucasian and or white. And literally in listening, I've seen races have been lost with 500 votes. So
I don't believe she was counting registered voters. I think she was counting like the population. I don't think she was saying this is how many voters we have.
No, I think you got the statistic wrong. I missed how many African Americans there are. I think she said 80,000 Hispanic and 400,000 white registered voters.
I don't know. But based on the numbers that were quoted on the show, it almost seems like it's equivalent for 400,000 ADOS, 400,000 Caucasian, and she has a middle population of 80,000 Hispanics. That's just what I heard. I'm not sure.
And you're making your point to say what? Because tell me what you...
if it's equivalent, right? And we know we're at a deficit because of the way history is told. The gentleman who was on was like, oh, white people don't care. I don't know that white people don't care. I mean, white people in Buckhead right now, which is predominantly white, are fighting a public-private partnership under the Gulch because they don't want their private money used. And reparations, even if it's just the beginning of a study, can be confusing for folks because we have people of color, specifically Black people, who are elite. They're doing very well economically. And then we have a pool, of lower income Black people who are not as a whole. And when white people or people who are non-Black and even people who are elite Black see that, we don't have a strategy to say, well, look, reparations is going to be based on tiered or something of that nature. And so why would those 400,000 say, when they don't understand history, when they don't understand the what Ken described as a chain of events, say, yeah, we want to give a blanket amount across the board to Black people for what's happened in the past. When we have Black millionaires, we have folks giving away. I'm not lying.
He doesn't agree. He totally doesn't agree with what you're saying, Robbie.
We'll bring him back on. I wish, we would have chatted then, because maybe I'm confused. Maybe I heard it wrong. But I'm definitely not lying. Maybe I'm confused, Sean. Help me understand the confusion. But let's maybe not call me a liar right off the bat. I said white people don't care. Okay, yeah, but they probably do. Maybe. So
what's going on in Atlanta, Robbie?
Well, honestly, this discussion trickles into Atlanta. Mm-hmm. I was completely over the whole Atlanta situation. In fact, I'm rethinking exactly what I'm suggesting here on strategy. And, I don't have time to just sit there and be a thorn and, not go anywhere and it not move. I want to see valuable progress. I don't want to see people continuing to suffer. I think it's very problematic hearing, that these immigrants are getting this and they, again, it seems like we're fighting in this bucket while there's a bigger piece, but we're focusing on, what the 80,000 Hispanics are actually going to get offended about. Just saying. That's what I heard, right? So if it's equivalent, and we got an 80,000 pool that might tip it, that might get it, is it in our best interest to call them they and say, well, they're getting this, well, they're getting this? Is that really an ideal strategy? And respectfully, people in Atlanta are completely confused, including myself, because the only people being harmed, for example, on the south side in Southwest Atlanta in District 12, people being displaced are poor. The consistency is poor Black people. And the reality of it, and this is not going to be something that a lot of people like, but it is what it is. As someone said, it is what it is. The people who are displacing them are also upper class Black and white people, period. And I see that every day. And the people who are allowing this, tolerating this, whether you want to call them a Lucy McBath or afraid or whatever, are also Black elites. My district council person is a Black woman, District 12. My city council president is a Black woman, Felicia Moore. Our mayor is a Black woman, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom. I could go on with this. The neighborhood association president, who is requesting more police enforcement and is also a broker, is a Black woman. The agent who bought 25 sites illegally with a trademark off of the Beltline, who 93% of buyers buy off of the internet, is a Black agent. He's a Black investor agent. So, and he's in an article in the New York Times saying, well, if it's anybody's fault, he literally said this, it's mine because I brought them here. So when are we going to get past, again, back to what MLK was saying, looking at people's behaviors and deciding who we want to align with based on behavior and having a strategy? You know, and this is why it's confusing for people. And I'm not suggesting that it would be any better if it were white people in charge, right? But let me tell you what it would be. It'd be more damn obvious. I'm serious.
Yes,
David?
I agree with you, Robbie. I mean, this is one of the things that does create a smoke screen, a distraction, and the people who are actually behind it, the really big money that controls Atlanta, controls real estate, and controls the lending. You know, the capital. Is the same old group, you know, that's been in charge for generations, you know, and that the Woodruff.
David, and honestly, and I apologize, I'm going to be a little negative here. I'm going to be a little toxic. Well, where y'all at then? Because we've been doing this for 5 years in the city. We've been doing this for 5 years. The functionality of the system, the community engagement system in Atlanta is broken. It does not allow poor Black people to be included in process. And we have been showcasing this.
Not disagreeing with you, Robbie.
I'm looking at the comment, and I think this gentleman made the comment like, yeah, we're coming for those people too. Cool, because the only consistency here is that poor Black people are on the way out. That's the only consistency. The data is clear. And it's elite Black people and white people elite who are pushing them out. So if that's our consistent data, then what now? What's our strategy now? If we have the neighborhood associations who allow monetary dues to be charged, cutting out poor Black people and their agenda, and that's what goes to the NPU, and the NPU, the neighborhood planning unit, is what goes to APAB, the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, is what goes to the Atlanta City Council, and that's what gets executed, then that's where our target should be.
Sean, you want to jump in? I want to bring you back for that comment that you guys.
Hello. Well, I appreciate you allowing me back on. And my statement was, and I didn't mean to call anybody a liar, but if somebody says something that I didn't say, it's a statement of fact. It just is what it is. So we can kind of go from that. So not mean to be personal, but my statement was that most white people don't care what HR 40 is, because most don't even know what it is. They don't know, because most Black people, if I went up to the random Black person on the street and say, hey, have you heard about HR 40? They'd be like, I don't know, what are you talking about? Now, people who are in politics know. So for Lucy McBath, person in their office say, oh, she can't do that. She can't even sign on and co-sponsor that when most people don't even know what it is disingenuous. That was my statement.
Not signing it then?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think Miss McBath is not signing the?
Because she's afraid of her constituency in her district.
So, but why? Because she believes
because it's predominantly white.
Okay, then okay. She's not dumb. She clearly has had an experience that propelled her to come into office. So she probably knows, right? And you have said this, Tamara, over and over and over, that people are worried about protecting their seats, probably to do the work, or maybe because it's a comfortable seat. Who knows? You've said this over and over. She knows that she will be dragged through the coals if she signs it, because they will take that and say, look what Lucy McBath did. She signed this, meaning that no? Okay.
No, and the reason I'm saying that is because right now it has over 90 co-sponsors. Black, white, I haven't seen one. I have not seen one come in any district of anybody saying, oh, well, I can't believe this person signed on, da-da-da-da-da. So the fact that she hasn't signed on, afraid, and somebody would use it against her, I haven't seen it. So if you have it, if you have evidence of what you're saying, I would love to see it. 90 co-sponsors, not one have I seen somebody say, wow, you know what? This person signed on HR 40, a study for reparation. I think she's a coward.
Sean, I don't know how to say this exactly, but what I just said in response to what you were saying is that Karen Handel is going to go after Lucy McBath and with everything that she could possibly throw at McBath, and so I don't agree with you that this is just going to fly under the radar.
Google search, literally it comes up as the reparations bill.
Robbie,
it literally comes up as Commission to Study for African Americans Act.
Let David finish. Let David finish.
Sorry.
So I don't think it's I don't think it's accurate given this political race to say that this is just a blip on the radar screen. Handel is one of the dirtiest politicians that's around. Okay, and she is cut of the same mold as Trump as far as what she's going to do in this race. So McBath has to be both brave and also prepared to say that she's got to get out in front of this. And so I agree with you that I love that expression, pressure bust pipes. I agree with you that we need to be really, put the screws to Lucy McBath, but we've got to be also supportive of her, of saying to her that you can get ahead of this. You can do both of these things. Support HR 40. Hey, I didn't remember the number when you said it. I mean, you got to say reparations. Study. Reparations study when you say HR 40. So, but
Lucy just has to do the math. There's enough of Black and brown votes in her district that could be mobilized on her behalf. Because she's going to lose
votes that you're like they're giving them to immigrants. You think they're going to go for this?
Well, she just signed something for immigrants. That's what part of the conversation.
This is a critique. You're not creating alliances.
Say what, Robbie?
It's not creating an alliance to be like they're giving it to the immigrants. Those immigrants are going to turn around and be like, oh, you know what they're going to think? Let me tell you what they think, because I'm around immigrants. My parents were them. They're like, all these people want something for nothing. They don't understand history. They don't understand the lineage. And yes, David, you're right, but it's the top of the hour at noon, so maybe timing. Every single thing with this bill says proposal for reparations for African Americans. If we do not recognize the deficit in how we're approaching it.
It is for African Americans specifically, but for ADOS, American descendants of slavery. Not even all Black people. It is American descendants of slavery, and all Black people are not ADOS.
I get that.
So it's very
but when
specific.
they hear, so the quickest thing that's going to happen if she goes for it is Lucy McBath is for reparations, and now if it's equivalent 400 for ADOS, 400 Caucasians, 80 Hispanics, she's now got two sides on her. How's she going to win with that? They're going to take it and run and say,
not our problem. Not our problem. A lot of people
if you're not in the solution, right, it's not your problem. And if you're not getting displaced, evicted, foreclosed on, sleeping under a bridge, assaulted when you're homeless, it's not your problem. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, that sitting comfortably is a very privileged position to come from.
All right, so we're at the top of the hour. ADOS, so this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have. HR 40, we're going to continue to put the heat on Miss Lucy McBath, Representative Lucy McBath. Let's put her information back up. The number is 225-4501. Her Twitter handle, Rep Lucy McBath. Put the pressure on, put the heat on. She will sign this, or guess what? We will withhold the vote. And with that, I'm going to head us out. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. You can find us at tamaraforgeorgia.com. You can always find, he didn't join us today, Mr. Egberto Willie's Politics Done Right. He is out at Netroots Nation, happening in Philadelphia. You can find Mr. David at Acknowledge the Divide right here on Facebook. And you can always find Miss Robbie at the NPU Resident Public Forum. Sean, tell us what your Twitter handle and how people can find you on our way out.
Well, the best way to find me is SeanEHill.com on YouTube. Have a lot of videos about ADOS, politics, a lot of different things there. So, hey, check me out on YouTube, SeanEHill.com.
All right, we'll see you guys next Friday. We're going to continue to talk about ADOS. This topic is not going away, and neither are we. You guys have a great week.
You as well. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.